Hello fellow woodworkers and welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop, and we've been set a challenge in the Garage Workshop this week. We're going to be making a box for a school project. Roll the intro. So I think I've mentioned on the channel quite a few times that my day job is not this, believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe. I do actually work in a school for my day job, and I have been set the task of creating a wooden box for the children to use in one of their lessons. Now, I have got a couple of really important sort of rules or guidelines I've followed. Number one, it's got to be fairly lightweight, as in not weighing a ton, and number two, it has to look old. So I'm going to attack my pile of scrap wood, pick out some nice lengths of some different woods, and start construction of a really basic box. Let's get going. So fellow woodworkers, I've been through my scrap wood pile and I've come up with some old pieces of timber. Now these, some of you can see, like this one, I think you can probably see is very cupped. So there's only a percentage of that wood I can use, but that's not likely to be used for anything else. Got some offcuts of plywood, some bits and bobs from other projects. This is all sort of rough sawn timber. So I've got quite a few little bits and bobs, and as this box is going to be more decorative than structural, I haven't got to worry too much about making it incredibly strong and reinforced. It just have to be strong enough to hold some really basic sort of items that aren't going to weigh a lot. And I'm going to use these offcut slats. I've got quite a lot of these that I got from, they were donated to me from a builder. And they're really good. I made a fence with them earlier in the year. I'll put a link to that description. They're quite cupped as well, some of them, but I'm either going to use them the way that they were intended to be used, so either cupping them together in the correct way, or I might just run them all through the table saw and just use the sort of core wood in the middle. Now it is external wood and I get that, but it's going to give me the look I'm sort of after, I think. And I have bought a tin of mahogany wood stain because I do want the box to be mahogany. Apologies if you can hear the light airplanes flying over. So I think I've got enough wood here. The design isn't going to be that big, and I'm just going to go for a really sort of basic bog standard design. So let's get building now. So the first stage was to cut some wood, and I think last year I shared with you these offcuts of wood that I'd got from I think it was B&Q that were quite bowed, but there was quite a lot of good usable wood on each of the slices. So the first thing to do was run it through the table saw to get the strips out that I needed, and these strips obviously were going to form the framework or the internal structure. So when I'd done that, I got them all measured to exactly the right size and just ran them through the miter saw, just making sure they were absolutely straight. Again, in a project like this, measuring and getting everything exactly the right size is really important. So I did take my time and I went back and forward and just made sure everything was as it should be. Then I sort of offered them up as a little bit of a dry fit, and thankfully they're all the same size. You can see that one there, the ones on the side are slightly smaller. That was deliberate because I wanted to make the box as light as possible. So I just made sure the ones at the top were a little bit thinner. I then just drilled some holes in. It's a bit of a funny camera angle, this, isn't it? It's sort of almost over the top. Apologies for that. So then I drilled them in to give me the initial sort of holes to connect. Now I deliberately glued and screwed this bottom section just for added strength and rigidity, really. I put in some of these little plastic angles, which will be in an upcoming video. You'll see a bit more about those. So I plugged them in, I plugged them up, just used some screws, wood screws, and put them together. And I was pleased to say I measured, I don't think I got it on the camera, but I measured the diagonals and they were exactly spot on. I did also want to leave the glue to dry overnight, so when I'd hooked all of this together, I did actually leave it overnight to dry, just to give the wood glue time to cure, really. But the most important thing was making sure everything was straight and exactly the right size. So then I continued with the second frame. This is the one that's at the top, and as I said, it's a little bit thinner at the top, just to save on weight really. I then put the struts in, the sort of upright struts, drilled and screwed them all together, and this gave me the entire internal structure of the frame for the box. Next thing to do was just put it on some MDF. Again, very conscious of the weight, so I used some 9mm MDF that I had here that's really strong actually. It's nice and strong, very good quality piece of wood this. Again, it wasn't offcut. So I marked it out, and I didn't want to run it through the table saw because the shape of the box, although it was equal, wasn't quite 100% sort of right angle. So I just used the miter saw to sort of make the cuts, which you can do on this miter saw. It's a brilliant miter saw, this Evolution one. I can't recommend it highly enough. And I just sort of gently edged all the cuts, sticking to the lines that match the exact shape of the box. And as you can see there, absolute perfect fit, which I was really pleased about. This then was the internal part of the box. So I just nibbled off the edges, as it were, with my multi-tool. I did the others off camera, and then offered it up, and it fit perfectly. I was really pleased with it. So this is the sort of bottom of the box. There wasn't a bottom underneath. I sort of left the the structure as it were. I didn't put another box on the bottom, A, to help with the grip, and B, just didn't need it. So when I'd done that, I then moved on to working on the sides, and again I used exactly the same method as you've just seen, and I offered all the sides up, and they were really good, very well fitting, considering really it's not 100% the same shape. So then I just pinned them in, brad nailed them in, put the sides in, and I put a little bit of a you'll see me fit it in a minute, a sort of standing piece of wood there, and that was just to give the brad nail something to sort of anchor to when I put the inside bits in. Otherwise the bottom of the box would, those sides would just potentially cave in or sort of crush. Then I moved on to the fence panels that I said at the beginning. Just cut them all the same size, hooked them up. There were two that were sort of regulation size and one that I had to cut down, which you can see there. Really simple. I'm not quite sure what this wood is. If you know in the comments, please let me know. It is very well treated though, because it does smell quite strongly, but as I said, for this, not an issue. I then made and cut out some strips of wood just to have sort of an internal bit, and this was more for attaching the hinges than anything else, to be honest. Which was the next stage. Just some cheap hinges that I got from Lidl. I just hooked them on the inside. I'd already marked the outside with them laid up, and as you can see, it's a plywood. Now there's a bit of plywood ripped off there, but to be honest with you, I think that just adds to it, adds to the character. I then marked up and put in the last screws this side, and then the box was finished, and I was really happy with how the whole build had gone. So fellow woodworkers, the box is finished. As you can see, I've just put the lid on. Very happy with how it's turned out. Just a couple of little things. The edges, I probably should have mitered them, and had I had more time, I would have done that. I've been under a little bit of time pressure to get this finished, but I'm very pleased with how the finished box turned out. It looks old. It looks roughly made, which it is, but it achieved the goal that I set out to do, which was to make a sort of box out of scraps of wood, which I've done. Everything you can see here are scraps I've had lying around the garage workshop. So really pleased with how it turned out. If you're a regular viewer of the videos, then let me know what you think, and also don't forget to like and comment. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I'll catch you on next week's edition of the Garage Workshop. Take care, fellow woodworkers.